Okay, we're going to bring you some breaking news that has come into us now. Liam Payne, the former One Direction singer, has died at the age of 31. Local police say the British musician was reportedly found dead outside of a hospital in the Argentinian capital, Buenos Aires. And let's see now if we can bring up some of these pictures of the hotel outside where we believe that this has happened. And our correspondent, Nikki Schiller, is following the latest, Nikki, as we try to bring in some of these pictures. There they are. These are live scenes from Buenos Aires. And Nikki, you're our correspondent, of course, following the latest on the story. What do we know about what happened?
Yes, Sumi. So this happened in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, in an area of the capital called Palermo. Now, police are telling us that Liam Payne, of course, famous around the world for being part of the boy band One Direction, has died after falling from the third floor of a hotel. And our American partner CBS has spoken to the Director of Emergency Medical Services, confirming the news that Liam Payne has died after falling, what they say, onto an interior patio of the hotel. They say that the ambulance arrived 7 minutes after they got the call. So this happening in Argentina. As you said, we've seen the pictures from outside the hotel. These reports came in from Argentinian press first, and then the police have issued this statement saying that he did die after falling from the third floor of this hotel. Now, as I mentioned, Liam Payne is known around the world as being part of that boy band One Direction. Now, they were formed on the UK version of the X Factor back in 2010. That programme, of course, Simon Cowell, one of the judges. Now, originally, the boys that were in that band, so that's Harry Styles, Niall Horan, Zayn Malik, Louis Tomlinson and Liam Payne, didn't make it through as individual artists, but Simon Cowell and one of the other judges, Nicole Scherzinger, decided to put them together as a group, and they formed One Direction. Now, on the show itself, they didn't win the X Factor, they came third, but they were probably one of the first of the boy bands that really used social media and YouTube to become famous, and they posted lots of things, which meant that they didn't only become famous in the United Kingdom, but around the world. And they did world tours. They had a couple of albums selling millions and millions of records, 70 million records. And of course, they also used Spotify and other music services, so they had billions of streams as well. They were massive, touring the world, getting lots of adulation from girls screaming outside their hotels. And then in 2016, they decided to take a hiatus, and they haven't been back together since then. So some people feel they've split up, but they technically are still on a hiatus, but they went on to do their solo careers. Of course, the biggest to come out of that, Harry Styles. But Liam Payne also went on to have a solo career. He released an album of his own in 2019, a couple of singles, Polaroid and Familiar, you may know. He also went on to have a relationship with the Girls Aloud singer Cheryl Cole. They had a son together called Bear. He's now 7 years old, born back in 2017. And Liam, in Argentina. Now, we know that he posted on Snap today. I've seen that video. He's sitting in what we assume is his hotel, having a breakfast. He was talking about how he was going to go and play some polo, looking very relaxed, I have to say, in that video. We don't know what he was doing in Argentina, although we do know that one of his former bandmates, Niall Horan, was on tour in Argentina earlier this month at the beginning of October. So he may have been there for that and stayed. But what we do know is police telling us that Liam Payne, 31 years old, who was in and famous for being in the boy band One Direction, has died after falling from the third floor of a hotel in the Palermo area of the Argentinian capital, Buenos Aires. Sumi.
It is indeed shocking news, as we're looking at these pictures, as I described a little bit earlier. These are live pictures, Nikki, we're seeing from Buenos Aires, outside of that hotel, as you mentioned. We don't know at this moment more details about what happened, but we do have a statement that we have been given here that I'm just going to read out now. That says here, if I can find the statement just ahead of me here, the British musician, composer, Liam Payne, and guitarist and ex-member of the band One Direction died today after falling from the third floor of a hotel at 6000 Costa Rica in the Palermo neighborhood. Again, this is in Buenos Aires. These are the pictures we're looking at. The statement goes on to say, in the afternoon hours, officers from police station 14B were dispatched to the Hotel Casa Sur after a 911 call in which they were informed of an aggressive man who may have been under the effects of drug and alcohol. And there is one more part of the statement, Nikki. It says, when officers arrived, the officer in charge said he heard a loud sound in the inner courtyard of the hotel. When officials, they found a man who had thrown himself from the balcony of his room. This statement is a little bit rough. This has been translated, of course, from Spanish from police in Buenos Aires. But again, that statement that we've just received in saying that officers did respond to this hotel at 6000 Costa Rica in Buenos Aires, in the Palermo neighborhood. And this happened in the afternoon hours. And again, police here saying, this is a translated statement again, that they had received a 911 call. They were informed of an aggressive man who may have been under the effects of drug and alcohol. And when they arrived, they heard a loud sound in the inner courtyard. Nikki, again, we are waiting for more information, but just remind us again of what we've been seeing coming across the wires and, of course, social media as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually getting a few more details from our correspondent Ione Wells, who's in Argentina, and she confirming what you have also confirmed from that police statement, but also saying that the head of emergency medical services has been talking on local television there, saying that Liam had suffered, and this is a quote, very serious injuries incompatible with life as a result of his fall, and there was no possibility of resuscitation. He added that Mr. Payne was taken to a local hospital after the call was made to the emergency services on Wednesday evening. So we are getting a little bit more detail coming in that he was taken to hospital, but those injuries, the local head of the emergency services saying, were just so catastrophic there was no chance of resuscitating Liam Payne. So him in Argentina at this hotel, as I said, only a few hours ago, he had posted on Snap a video of him looking very relaxed and having a late, as he described, breakfast at 1 o'clock, and also talking about how he was going to go out and play polo. As you say, there has been a lot of reaction on social media, and there will be, because there are still a lot of fans of One Direction and the band members who were in One Direction. They had a massive following back in 2010 when they were formed on the X Factor. They were one of those bands that you can look back at, a bit like in the 60s we had the Beatles and there was the Beatlemania. Well, there was definitely One Direction mania during the early 2010s when they were formed, and then they travelled around the world, and they had lots of hit pop songs, very catchy pop songs, and they appealed to lots of particularly young girls who followed them and went out and went to see them on tour. They were formed, of course, as I mentioned earlier, by Simon Cowell on the show X Factor here in the UK. Originally, Liam Payne had actually auditioned before as himself when he was 14, but then he came back in 2016. And they were all very, very young, 16, 17, 18-year-old lads who were on this programme and then put together in that five-piece band by Simon Cowell and Nicole Scherzinger. And then they created that and sold over 70 million records. And then, as I said, they went on their hiatus in 2016, and a lot of them went off and did solo projects, of which Liam did do that. He had his own solo album. And as I mentioned, most famously, Harry Styles probably is the biggest of those One Direction lads that went on to do other things. But Niall Horan has also been on a world tour and has been in Argentina. Zayn Malik went off and did other things, as did Louis Tomlinson, the other band members that were in One Direction. And of course, we also have to remember that Liam Payne has a young son, a 7-year-old son called Bear, who he had with Cheryl Cole, very famous here in the UK as a singer. She was part of the girl group Girls Aloud, also formed on a reality TV show, and they have that son. So our thoughts, of course, will be going out to his son and to Cheryl as well at this very sad news. And of course, the fans of One Direction will be and have been posting on social media with their shock. And just on my WhatsApp from people saying, oh my God, I can't believe this. And I think that's the reaction that certainly here in the newsroom, when the first reports came out, people were shocked that this has happened. And I think that will be the overriding thing that all of those fans of One Direction have got, that is that shock of this sudden death. He's only 31 years old, and as we say, we don't know all of the circumstances around what happened. We've had that statement from the police that, as you said, we've had translated, but we do know from all of the reports that it does seem that he fell from a third floor of this hotel, and the local emergency medical director telling local television that it was onto a patio, and that those very serious injuries were, and I quote again, incompatible with life. Although he was taken to hospital, obviously they were unable to resuscitate Liam Payne, and that will be the shock and the shock news to me that that the fans of One Direction will be feeling at the moment.
Yeah, Nikki, shocking news indeed. All right, Nikki Schiller bringing us the latest updates as he's getting there. Nikki, thank you very much. And we're going to bring in our BBC News correspondent in Sao Paulo, Ione Wells. She is following the latest for us on this as well. And Ione, just so you know, we're looking at some live pictures from Buenos Aires of the scene outside of that hotel. We see a crowd gathered behind cordoned off tape, and we see police and other authorities there, flashing lights, clearly a big police presence. Ione, tell us the latest that you're hearing.
Well, that's right. There has been certainly scenes gathering near this hotel in Palermo, which is an upmarket neighborhood of Buenos Aires. Emergency services were called there earlier on Wednesday evening and found Liam Payne. He was then taken to the Casa Sur hospital in Palermo, but emergency services said that he had suffered very serious injuries. They were incompatible with life as a result of falling from the third floor of this hotel, and that, in their words, there was no possibility of resuscitation. Now, we are still finding out more details about some of the circumstances surrounding this event, but it has come as a huge shock to his fans. He was only 31 years old, and this is someone who has been in the public spotlight really for most of his adult life, even his childhood too. He first auditioned for the X Factor in 2008 when he was just 14 years old. He came back again in 2010, that time aged 16, and it was there where, despite being eliminated as a solo artist, he was joined with other contestants, Niall Horan, Harry Styles, Louis Tomlinson, and Zayn Malik, to form One Direction, going on to be one of the biggest boy bands in the world, one of the most successful groups known internationally. And I think it is safe to say that he will not just have huge fans, of course, back in the UK mourning this news, but also a huge fan base here in South America as well. One Direction were enormous. He obviously went on as well to do some solo music work along with his co-stars in that band. All of them sort of went their separate ways after taking a indefinite hiatus from 2016. So I think there is certainly going to be, I think, lots of public displays of mourning, both in Argentina but also across the whole world as a result of this news.